Yo, what's good everybody? You got Sketch here and welcome back to the channel. On this episode we're looking at a vertical shoot 'em up that, had it been described to me years ago, I would not have believed it existed. The crossover that many would have never expected blazes on the screens where the minds of developer Moss and SNK collide, in a shooter that is exactly what the title implies. We're checking out King of Fighters Sky Stage, developed and published in collaboration with SNK Playmore and Moss. Released into Japanese arcades in January of 2010, later getting ported to the Xbox 360 that September. This vertical shoot 'em up in the vein of Raiden will take the King of Fighters tournament to the air through 5 stages of mayhem. The story is real simple. Fighters are trapped in an interdimensional prison constructed by Orochi. 6 fighters from the King of Fighters series are given the ability to take the battle from the street to the skies in order to rescue the captives and stop the evil Orochi. Prepare for a heated battle that's got some tricks up its sleeve. Gameplay wise, you've got a 2.5D vertical shoot 'em up that lets you pick from 6 heavies of the KOF roster and fly through 5 stages where you'll shoot down as many enemies as you can while trying to stay in the skies. The game at a glance looks like a shoot 'em up with fighting game characters, but there's actually some neat mechanics worked in alongside the manic shooter elements. You've got a base shot and crush attack, but you've also got a special with 3 energy levels which can either work as more offensive or defensive maneuvers. These work in some fighting game elements to go alongside the shooting. What's interesting about the various offensive mechanics is that you can chain them together in some sick ways to decimate the ops and get yourself out of some dicey situations, since this game does not skimp on the projectiles and bullets hurling your way. It took a few playthroughs to really understand how the mechanic can really change up the gameplay for a shoot 'em up, and once you wrap your head around it, it can lead to some truly gnarly attacks. Downing enemies will drop medals, and the more of these you can grab, the higher your bonus will be at the end of each stage. You can also chain combos with your base and special attacks, and these also give you score multipliers. There will also be KOF invitations you can grab if you catch the characters around the stages, and these will also give you a ton of extra points. You got 3 lives per stock in the form of a life bar, and once they're gone, you lose your score and your medals. Continues reset your score to 0, and all medals collected are reset. If you can grab all the invitations in one clear and do it in a single credit, you can unlock the second loop, which has the game's true last boss. Needless to say, the difficulty on this one feels very much like an SNK arcade game at level 4, and getting to that second loop is going to be a challenge. With the roster on hand, you can raise and tackle your way to victory and figure out which character gels best with your playstyle. Going through each stage, you'll get to its boss encounter, which will be a possessed KOF fighter, and these encounters will ease you into the combat gradually. But by the second and third encounters, this game will beat the brakes off you. But it is possible to no-hit these boss fights with practice, tapping into your character's abilities, and clapping up anything that moves. The difficulty is fairly balanced, but considering there's a whole second loop that you can't attempt until you 1cc the first one, it forces you to get everything down before even getting to that true last boss encounter with Orochi Rugal. That doesn't mean it gets frustrating considering you have infinite continues and respawn right where you leave off, so there's a good bit of replay potential for completionists and those looking for a solid challenge. Graphics wise, KOF Sky Stage merges the 3D style of Raiden gameplay that Saibu Kahatsu and later Moss are known for, alongside the fighting game aesthetic and characters of SNK, which to an extent is canon in the KOF series, believe it or not. Stages ride the line between street fight vignettes and the sprawling landscapes of a shooter that jumps between dimensions. Through the 5 stages, you'll get your standard landscapes with hints of SNK flair and Easter eggs that are similar to Capcom's Varth. As mentioned earlier, to get the invitations to access the second loop, various KOF fighters will pop up during gameplay, much like how Varth has character cameos for bonus points. Differences here is that you'll shoot the characters until they drop the invitation. Stage 2 has a clever Fatal Fury reference where Geese Howard is falling down as you ascend a skyscraper, which will likely give KOF series vets a laugh. Beyond the Easter eggs, the action stays at a steady clip, only getting more intense as the game goes on. Enemy variety is pretty decent with a solid assortment of foes that are in 3D, with the KOF sprites in 2D drawn by Hiroaki. Enemy sprites are more in the vein of the later Raiden games, and you'll cut through waves of these upwards of a few hundred by the time the credits roll. Patterns are mixed up pretty well, and there are numerous points where the screen is cooking with gunfire and lasers. Animations on 2D and 3D sprites are both solid while not being overly flashy. Before boss encounters start, short pre-fight dialogue will set off each battle, and you've got several win quote sequences with your bonus medal breakdowns. Endings will also have static illustrations with dialogue, and these are pretty entertaining bits and about what you'd expect from a merge of SNK and Moss. Sound-wise, KOF Sky Stage is also solid across the board with several unique sound bites for each character and fully voiced dialogue for the main and enemy characters. You get a good bit of banter through each stage, and A2 Create Co is credited for the music and sound work here, but there is not much that I could find about the company. The soundtrack merges the vibe of the KOF games while mixing the energy of the Moss shoot 'em ups. The energy stays hype, and it's a fairly broad selection of tunes. Sound effects also got a good bit of punch to them, with explosions being nice and crunchy. Downing the bigger enemies also also drops some heavy resonance, and shot feedback has some good audio indicators of when shots are connecting. And the explosive crash of bigger enemies have a dry yet weighty hit. Each character has unique shot and special attack audio, all of which sounds good with the voice lines that have a fighting game and action anime style delivery. Overall, KOF Skystage is an interesting vertical shoot 'em up that merges two universes together in a way that most wouldn't expect, while also being a solid Toho style shooter. At a base, the shooting feels good and you feel powerful enough to take on what's ahead while offering up some challenging gameplay. Once you dig a little deeper, there's some neat mechanics that almost turn it into a fighting game in the clouds with the combo and various attack and defense strategies. With 2 loops and a practice mode, there's a fair bit to dig into where you learn a bit more each time you play. While the difficulty is up there, once you figure out optimal strategies and techniques, you can get buck on the game and crack shoot everything on the board. With a second player, this would be downright insane with its local and online versus and co-op modes. So if you want to party up with the homies, you can. However you slice it, this is a solid choice for an uncommon shooter with an interesting premise. King of Fighters Skystage gets an 8 out of 10 and comes recommended shoot 'em up and arcade game fans that are into crossover titles, since this is a good one that doesn't really get talked about nearly as much as it should. SNK is known for series and cross-developer titles, so it's kind of interesting this one doesn't get brought up in that discussion a little bit more often. This is available on the Xbox 360, upwards to the series consoles, with the Xbox 360 market going offline in July. If you're interested, download it just in case. There's also a sequel that's available on the PSP called Neo Geo Heroes Ultimate Shooting, which was also released in December of 2010. Physical copies of both of these might be a bit tough to track down, but if you can find it for a good price, go for it. Otherwise, play it however you can. And if you made it this far into the video, thank you so much for watching. If you find these videos helpful, that's awesome. I'm glad to use it as a resource. Check back often, we'll have more reviews and commentaries come up in the near future. But until then, take it easy and stay safe out there. I'll see you on the next one.